Hey, 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 Fit Mama. Jen Oliver here, your host of the Fit Mama podcast. This is the work in to your workout. Hey, hey, Fit Mama. Jen here with you today to talk about your default mode. Yup. What is your default setting? And I like to talk about default as in our default habits. When we are busy, when we are distracted, when we are not thinking, what is our default setting? What are we thinking about? Because our brain is always thinking. And when we talk about meditation, we think, I have to just stop my mind from thinking and it's going to be clear, nothing, empty. And that simply isn't the case. So what is going on in your mind, in your thoughts, when you are not engaged in work, when you're not doing something, engaging with your kids, family, spouse, etc.? What is there? What is going on? And so what most of the clients that I work with and most of our, in general, women, fit mamas, default mode tends toward the negative and worry. And we can probably all attest to, I have some worries and I worry about things, and who wouldn't worry if they had this and this that my life has going on, which is totally fair, and I have my own list of those. But worrying really doesn't help, and those who worry know that there have been times they've saved a situation because of their stringent worries. But for the most part, often it's just ruminating over, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? Or what if this were to happen? And then that, and then what would that? And then what would he, she, and this and that? And it goes on. And hours are spent doing this. So it's in a fantasy land. That's if we aren't distracted by TV, distracted by doing things for other people, like our kids or family. We're doing laundry, we're doing that. Even in those moments, often we got place, we got space for rumination. We got time for worry. We don't have time for this, that, or the other that we want. We don't have time for the growth in our personal life, or personal development, our self-esteem, or our fitness. We don't have time for that. But somehow worry always seems to fit in. So I want you to question this today in your own life. And what is your default? If your default is worry, what is it that you're worrying about? Is it something you can control or not? And if you're confused about that, or you're just not even sure, go back in the episodes of the Fit Mama podcast. This is the work in to your workout. And I talk in one episode, I'll have to look it up and link it, that I just talk about controlling the controllables. Because we can spend all day long thinking about trying to control something that we got none control over. And then we get driven bananas by ourselves going, hey, you know what? I actually can't do anything about this. And that is why this is the most futile and frustrating task right now, is just even thinking about this. I need to distract myself. I want to get this off my mind. What else can I think about? What else can I do? And I was recently talking about this. And I stated, and I think I was pretty accurate, and I'd love you to write in or send me a DM about your opinion on this, and I might post this actually too, is this idea that I thought people are just looking for something to do, something to distract themselves from thinking negative things about themselves. And that's a pretty blanket, broad statement, but when you look at people's motivation for the things that they do, what are they doing? They're spending time with family, friends, and it could be a great positive experience. And if they're in a good place, they can have fun, etc. But it's really, they are often, and people in general are often worried about something in their own life. They're worried that they got to get up on Monday. They're worried about they got to pay their bills. They're worried about their kids have this or that they have to take care of. They're worried about so-and-so sick, or so-and-so wants this and can't get that, or didn't want this and got that, and all the rest. We worry about others. We think about others. And it's normal for us to do so. And you're not a bad person. You're actually a great, thoughtful, kind, loving, amazing person for thinking about all these people, for quote unquote worrying about them. But all I'm suggesting today is that your default, maybe first you look at what your default is, but then is your default as easy a change? And I'm going to tell you right now, this is a rhetorical question because it's a yes. Your default is as easy to change as shifting your perspective. Going from worry or ruminating or frustration or just can't get it off my mind thinking about into giving. So hear me out on this. So when it comes to thoughts, you already know I always talk about having thoughts of gratitude, thoughts of positive emotion in your day, because you're going to feel better. And so often when we're worrying and we're in rumination or frustration, we don't feel pretty good. We actually have a knot in our stomach. We have this elephant sitting on our chest. Our panties are in a bunch, whatever. We feel like crap. And we're constantly in our own life trying to keep busy or distracted so that you don't feel as crappy as you feel. And the interesting thing is that often our medicine for this is self-medication in many ways, in whatever form that is. And you can go back and listen on addictions. Are you addicted? One of my episodes I'll link as well, because we do run into these addictions, whether it's an addiction to alcohol, drugs, sugar, food, eating, distraction, shopping, gambling, TV, binge watching, binge eating, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter. Even if it's working or just taking care of everybody or whatever, your personal distraction, addiction, affliction, it's a self-medication. And you can say that in any way. I mean, for me, research is a self-medication. And what I've actually realized is that when it's not harmful, it can be thought of as a self-meditation. So you're self-soothing. A meditation is just being soothed. A meditation is breathing, being here right now, looking around you, not judging everything, not putting a story behind everything, not labeling everything as in this always happens to me and I'm always the one and this is my lot in life, and just huffing and puffing around your life, which is common, but you don't have to live with it. You do a perspective shift such that you're giving back. You're starting with gratitude, which is thank you, and you're giving these thank yous away to people, or you're giving a prayer. This is where I find it to be really powerful for me. I give a prayer. I like to give. For me, giving is my nature, and it depends what your nature is. My nature, I am very aligned with the word generous, and maybe because it has the word gen in the word, I tend to lean towards generosity. If I, as a default mode, get into frustration or madness or whatever my former default modes could be, I switch that up. I take a minute and I go, okay, I am going on a path downward spiraling. Everybody knows a downward spiral that they can get into. Then it leads to behavior change of behaviors that are self-sabotaging. So if you get in from do the little scoot over from self-medication with external things like drugs, alcohol, shopping, cleaning, gambling, whatever, into self-meditation, which is self-soothing through breathing or exercise or inner size, like binge listening to the Fit Mama podcast, going back to number 1 and listening over again. And I'll hang out with you every time you get on the treadmill, every time you go out for a walk or run or do whatever, clean your kitchen. I'm here with you. So tune in, go back, click the links that I'm going to set in the show notes around addiction and specifically controlling the controllables, as I mentioned. But honestly, it's really about soothing yourself. What soothes you? Because, yeah, the wine soothes you or it knocks you out, or the, cake or, whatever it is, it doesn't even matter. But you're doing something all day. And if you don't know what you're doing all day, take a pen to paper and record what you do in your day, right? You're either writing, reading, playing, engaging, bathing someone else, whatever you're doing in a day, write that down. So you have some awareness around what is your time spent, and is the time that is quote unquote your downtime being spent self-medicating. What is your default mode? Self-medication in that moment, right? Some people it's raiding the fridge. Some people it's journaling. Some people it's sitting under a tree. Some people it's sitting out in the sun. Some people it's jumping out of a plane or doing something risky. There are a lot of ways to medicate, but where is that a nice ride over to self-meditation where you are soothing in a positive sense that doesn't have a negative consequence potentially, right? Like a drug or an alcohol or a, food addiction or spending addiction is negative consequence that isn't maybe what you want, and it could be small or it could be a big risk you're taking. But what's something you can take a risk in that is less risky, more payoff because it's life enhancing, right? And I'm always doing research around what helps us have longevity, what helps us in the long run, that also helps us in the short term, right? Breathing, meditating, teaching our kids to breathe and meditate and manage their emotions through not an external source, because once they get to 15, hopefully not sooner, but a lot of the time even 10, doing drugs or alcohol, God forbid, they get into soothing from the external. And we at Fit Mama are into inner size. And although exercise is good and, communicating and CBT or therapy or, whatever, it's really, really great to know that you can soothe yourself and you're not in traffic yelling at the next guy or you're, self-medicating all the time. So check into your default mode and what is it actually about? What is your default mode actually telling you needs to change? Because it's something. Everybody's something, unless you're someone who dissects your default mode all the time, which good on ya, that's great, that's good. Here we ask, I always ask myself, and I actually found myself listening to the Fit Mama podcast the other day, wanting to hear first for quality control, but second of all, thank you for staying with me, that you listen to me as I go on these rants. It's hilarious. Listening to myself, but I listen from a listener's perspective, and I appreciate that although sometimes I'm nauseating maybe to listen to, or at least this is from my perspective, there is some thought-provoking content, and every day you evolve. So even if you listen to them 3 or 4 times over the course of a year or 2 years or 5 years, right? Sometimes you go back and listen. It's amazing how you've evolved and things look a little different. So go back to listen from number 1 again, listen in a binge way, and how they all come together. It really is interesting, and I think you'll like it. So what is your default? Make it be Fit Mama in your inner size before you keep telling yourself, I have to do this, I have to get to the gym, I have to food prep. You don't have to do anything. What you have to do, though, I'll tell ya, is slow it down, breathe, tune into the Fit Mama podcast, connect to your inner world, and get that insight that is going to take you to the next level in your life in that way. So I want to expand on this idea for you that is this giving and this gratitude as being your new default. Because when we stay in that default of, oh, the way things always are, oh, these things don't work out, oh, this is what I'm used to, we get more of that. And I was posting recently on my social media about the episode of the Ultimate Health podcast that Dr. Joe Dispenza was on. And I've talked about Dr. Joe for many a long time. He wrote the book I originally was talking about called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And the one interesting thing is that we always want things to look different, but then we keep acting in the same ways. And that book that he wrote and his interview on the Ultimate Health podcast, I mean, they're pretty robust. I love him because he is a neuroscientist. He is a really, really well-researched guy around heart coherence, the brain, the heart, the body, the mind, all the good stuff that I love here at Fit Mama.
And he really tells it like it is. Now, that podcast, normally I listen to podcasts and audiobooks in 2.0 format, 2 times the speed of a regular talker. And you can put it at 1.25, 1.5, 1.75. And I listen at 2 for someone with an American or Canadian accent. Any other accent, I listen at 1.75 or 1.5 speed. For this Dr. Joe, I recommend putting it at 0.5 speed because he talks fast. He doesn't elaborate and doesn't repeat things and uses very big words. And those of you who are like me, who have been following his research for, a better part of 5 years, will understand it. But it gets pretty hairy if you don't know anything about him. But he really talks about how things can change. He got in a really bad car accident, a truck actually or something hit him, or no, he took a turn on his bike. I knew he was on his bike, but I thought a car hit him, but maybe, I think some kind of truck hit him when he took a turn in a race on his bike. So it was pretty scary. He broke a million things in his back and was never expected really to walk again and needed some big surgery. Never ended up doing it because he really started to sort of rebuild his body from the inside out. And it's really an interesting thought, but it goes into a lot of different areas of research to build back a body from scratch once you're destined for not walking again. So it's a really interesting story. He talks a lot about the physical, but a lot about the mental. And he talks a lot about how to create change, how to make change, how to sustain change, how to be someone different, not that same person who all these bad things or whatever always keep happening to. And we're often a product of where we came from. And if we don't have a belief that our default can be different, we don't have to be, what we always labeled ourselves as, right? We can recreate who we are in each and every moment by being who we want to be in each and every moment. And what would a person who was feeling like you want to feel, looking like you want to look, acting like you want to act, living where you want to live, having what you want to have, and being what you want to be, what are they doing as their default? Are they getting up and they have a morning routine? Are they food prepping? Are they heading to the gym? Or are they waking up and breathing and meditating? Or are they waking up and going for a run? Or are they waking up and rushing and forgot half their stuff? Ask yourself, where are they? Where can you possibly be if you realize that if anyone can do it, you can, right? If it's ever been done, if anyone's ever thought it up, it can be done, right? And if you can start to subscribe to that, you can change your default. And often our default, and I always talk about programs, right? Our default programs that we run are there for efficiency, right? Wake up, go shower, go brush your teeth, put on these underwear, put on these clothes, anything that looks like this or fits like this, or the uniform if you're going here. You go through the programs. And when your default programs are full of self-sabotage, are full of negativity, are full of drama towards especially yourself, if all day you're ruminating over things that happened in the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 14 years, whatever, it is not serving you. So to get out of the old default program that isn't serving you, which is lost in old past or future anxieties and worries, you want to get into the giving, the gratitude, the G spot, I'm going to call it, for lack of a better term right here, because giving, gratitude are the two big G spots for this, okay? So getting into the G spot of you and your thoughts and your feelings all day, as my friend Jumi, who's coming on the podcast soon, talks about this orgasmic life, living every moment as if you were fully present and just surrendering to the pleasure of the moment. And I love that. And that starts with gratitude and giving. It really, really does. Because if you are in gratitude of the sun that is shining, or the fact that you have pants and shoes, that is a good place to start, right? The fact that you're breathing air and it's pure, The fact that you are stuck in traffic means you have a car and some freedom and a job, right? Maybe, or maybe not, depending. Maybe you're annoyed by your kids. Well, that's a gift. Some people don't have kids, right? And it's not only a gratitude where you compare yourself to other people and you go, well, I've got it better than that guy, must be doing something right. It's got to be good, but I hate it. And you're still complaining. That's different. The energy of true gratitude is just compassion and love. It's not a lot more. It's just saying the words thank you, sometimes out loud, sometimes on repeat. When I start to have anxious thoughts or I just want to get out of my head, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sometimes I'm running and I just want the run to be over and I just say thank you, thank you. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but it's thank yous. It's just thank you. Thank you that I'm here. Thank you that my kids are safe. Thank you that I have these 2 legs, these 2 feet. Thank you that I have toes. Thank you. And just anything to get me out of my head, ruminating over some anxiety or worry or being depressed or frustrated of something that happened in the past, regretting something I said or did or didn't do. That's a sucky place to be. And when you're stuck there, it's endless. So the big switcheroo, the big G spot you can get to that lives that orgasmic life that's available to you is giving back, giving compliments, giving money, giving your time, giving to charity, giving to your children or your grandchildren, giving your attention is your number one resource. As Gary Vee says, if you don't know Gary Vee, he's pretty inspirational. He's an amazing guy. I've learned from him for over a decade. Gary Vee talks about we are trading attention, day trading. Like, how they day trade money, day trade stocks. Okay, hey, we're trading all day, trading this for that. The old, original work started as trading. Here, I'll barter this. You give me that cow. I'll give you this, whatever, tractor. And now we're day trading attention. That is our most non-renewable resource. Although it is renewable, we get new attention every minute. Sometimes you have to realize you never get it back. You only can get new, but you never can get it back. So pay attention to what you pay attention to and appreciate what is in front of you. And appreciation is simply value going up, right? Whatever you value, you pay attention to. I value money, I value my job, I value my kids. Whatever you're paying attention to and valuing will appreciate, which means it gets more value, right? If our stocks appreciate, if our house appreciates or our car appreciates instead of depreciates, that means it is increasing in value. So when you can align what you value in your heart with what you value in your mind, you can up-level your default setting, which feels really good, right? You can start to say, hey, things can be better than this. How can I make them better than this? Okay, I'm not going to say that every day. I'm not going to drive to work being annoyed every day. I'm not going to say, I hate this, and perpetuate things to happen over and over, right? We reiterate things. We go, oh, this happened. Then we're telling a story. Then it's going to repeat itself. Get out of it, up level, it's done. What's past is past. The past does not dictate the future, right? We know the past does not dictate the future. Nothing in the past says anything about the future unless we decide to bring it into the future. Right? And I hear people about this all the time. They don't want something to be their future, but they keep saying it over and over, like it's their destiny, right? And I'm sure you've done this before, right? We see our children even picking up bad habits. Oh, she's just like me. She's, I've heard someone said to me recently, she's just like me. She's an emotional eater. And this is perpetuating something that, we're all emotional eaters because our emotions are tied to our food. But if you're saying to her, you're an emotional eater, which I know she then repeated that she did say that to her. I said, did you have this conversation with her? She said, yes. She knows she's an emotional eater. This is potentially a dangerous place to be because we label ourselves and then we hold ourselves to cover something. And then we do not discover what other possibilities are out there we're always in recovery mode, trying to salvage this image we had of ourselves. So it's just a very different energy, and I'll go on about that another day. But what I really want to emphasize here today is that your default programs can change. They do change anyway. Every single day you're making new pathways, old ones are closing over, but if you keep doing the same things over and over, it keeps those pathways uncovered. Like if you stomp over the same trails when you go hiking over and over, you make a path there that isn't growing over after a while. And the same thing with your neural pathways. When you do the same behaviors over and over, if it's an addictive pattern, if it's a self-medicating repetition over and over that is not health promoting, that is not actually self-serving, it's self-sabotaging, you really want to up-level your default patterns. So that option is always available to you. And we talk about that in the Fit Mama Foundations program. I do that with my clients. That's literally what we do, is change those programs. And it's not about overhaul your life. It's little modifications that add up to big things over time. And when I work privately with my clients, they have an option to start at 3 months. But generally, we start at 6 to 12 months of coaching, which is intimate. 1 to 2 times a week we connect for 20 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, just check-ins, or sometimes just a text. But we are in contact almost every day when you are a client of mine, because it requires little reminders on a daily basis. And when you are letting yourself fall into old habit patterns over and over again, it can be very, very debilitating, because you get stuck in that same old pathway that you go, oh, well, this was the old path I used to romp on every day. Yeah, it's really well formed, but we're trying to get out of that. So you need constant reminders to veer over that path less traveled, which often is filled with love and joy, and it evokes things like guilt and selfishness, which is really just old programs again. That is a default pattern we get to up level, and it's really a fun process. And I talk to my clients, I check in on clients all the time, past clients who are now moved on, because that's the other thing. Although I love working with you for 6 months, a year, 2 years even, I've had some clients for 2-3 years. Honestly, I've had many clients for 6 to 12 months, and that is it. And then they are onwards, upwards, doing their own things, and then they can come back to me for a tune-up, or they are now into new patterns. Because when you start to value your energy and you value yourself enough to sleep and not do everything for everybody else and fold other people's laundry just to have that ticked off your to-do list so that you can relax, hey, just relax. That'll all get done another time. The fast route is to straight relaxation, which is your new default. So up level, get yourself together for a new default by the G spot, giving and gratitude. Head over there to that spot in your brain, into that room, into that place that's always available to you. You just got to exit the other one and walk into that room where love is all around you. And it's a great place to hang out. So I'll talk more about that in a future episode. Thank you. I'm so excited for all the guest episodes I have on this podcast. Thank you for sharing them. Thank you for going in and rating the podcast, subscribing to the podcast, and all the sharing, because it is a growing community literally every day. We have new Fit Mamas joining our Facebook group. We have new Fit Mamas reading the book and rating it. We have new Fit Mamas joining all of our online communities and social platforms, and it's so exciting to connect with you. So stay tuned for more inner size with me here on the Fit Mama podcast. Have a good one. Talk soon. Namaste.